I hope you are too.
Well, I'm fine.
Mm. Well, let me start from where the speaker ended. Of course, I'll come to the matter of free speech, which seemed to have been part of the bigger discussion in Parliament yesterday. But do you get a sense that majority of the criticism of the speaker is from a misunderstanding of the role of the speaker when it comes to the work of Parliament? Or are people right to sometimes say that he's failed to crack the whip on many occasions?
Okay, so the Speaker's powers are circumscribed by the Constitution and the standing orders of Parliament. So, as a presiding officer of Parliament, he draws his powers from these two documents. The Speaker has no inherent power in anything. His powers are known and they are legislated. So, people who do not read the Constitution or the standing orders of Parliament think that the Speaker has the power to crack the whip. The Speaker can't crack the whip, but it must be in accordance with the standing orders of Parliament.
He can crack the whip, but it must be in accordance with the standing orders of Parliament. You said something about. Did you say he has no is it inherent powers?
He has no inherent powers to do anything. He's a presiding officer. The presiding officer of the House. But because it's Parliament, we have exalted the position and we've called him Speaker. But he's a presiding officer. He's not a member of Parliament.
Because one of the things that we're talking about yesterday was even how this whole matter of what the chaos that happened during the vetting of ministers was treated. A member of Parliament just shouted whilst proceedings were going on some unprintable words against a fellow member of Parliament, among others, that we've seen no action on. To what extent can we say this is a failure of the speaker?
So when that thing happened, and many things happened during the vetting of ministers and during the sitting of the committee established to investigate the matters concerning the disturbances that occurred during the sitting of the House. Many things did happen. And I did not shy away from commenting on those issues. Now, when a matter happens before the committee, it is the chairperson of the committee who has jurisdiction over the matter. So the chairperson can immediately exact disciplinary action on a member who has exhibited unruly behavior during the committee sitting. That's how you maintain discipline and order during committee meetings. Now, where the matter touches and concerns bringing the name and integrity of Parliament into disrepute, the chairperson of the committee can escalate the matter onto the floor of the House and ask that the members' conduct be referred to the Privileges Committee. That is when the Speaker's jurisdiction is invoked. So after listening to the debates on the House on the conduct of the Member of Parliament and the resolution of the House, the Speaker then directs accordingly. So that's how Parliament works. Now, you might ask, so what role does the Speaker play? The Speaker might decide not to give attention to a matter that has been raised by a member of Parliament touching and concerning the conduct of another member of the House. This he can do in many ways. If he has wind that a member of parliament is intending to raise a matter on the floor of the House touching and concerning another member's conduct, the Speaker can decide not to see that member. That member must first of all catch the eye of the Speaker before the Speaker can be called to make his submission on the floor of the House. And the Speaker can deliberately ignore that member for various reasons. So that is the discretion of the Speaker. But if the member's conduct is brought before the House, and after a debate, the House resolves that such a member's conduct be referred to the Privileges Committee, the Speaker has no discretion in the matter.
I see. Very interesting. Okay, so let's move to the matter of free speech. In fact, I'm sure you heard the comments that were made by Patricia Apieje, who is the deputy minority leader, and then the comments that came from the majority leader, Mahama, who was then talking about Ghana's latest ranking when it comes to the press freedom index. And then there are also people like Samson Ladia Yenini, there's Manasseh Azure, and there's Oliver Vormawor, who are also raising concerns about recent arrest of people who have made comments that they all agree that are may be criminal in nature. Now, this is Oliver Vormawor this morning again. He says it may seem attractive to arrest anyone who makes statements you deem provocative when you are in power. In the end, it begins to undermine your goodwill. Any government that falls prey to every emotional bait will soon lose the people's goodwill. It doesn't matter how much justified you think the arrest of the person is. The truth is, no government or their supporters think any arrest is without justification. And he then says, the Bible says, quote, there is a way that seems right to a man, but in the end, it leads to death. He has been urging caution. Do you agree that perhaps, do you agree with them and the concerns of the minority?
Well, so it's a balancing act. It's a balance. Oliver Vormawor, Manasseh Azure, Samson Ladi Ayinene, and all those who are speaking on free speech knows that it's a balancing act. And that to get the balance, government must take into consideration the circumstances under which the statements have been made and the individuals involved and the general atmosphere in the country. That's a balancing act. Nowhere in the democracy is free speech without limitation. Even in our constitution, the constitution provides that free speech is not absolute. It has limitations. But when to apply the limitation is the matter that they are talking about.
The limitations.
There are limitations there. There are limitations.
So,
for instance,
okay,
you cannot purport to exercise your right to speak free speech when you spew hate speech on public media or in the public. You cannot. That is criminal. So, yes, you have the right to speak, but your right ends when you decide to propagate hate in public. Then your free speech will be circumscribed. You cannot purport to exercise free speech when the matters you are talking about is contrary to public policy. You cannot. Your right to free speech will be circumscribed. So the Constitution already provides the basis upon which the right to exercise free speech can be circumscribed.
Then there's also the argument of the fact that perhaps this particular laws are being used a lot more in this administration than in the former administration. This is, and I keep reading them to you because they are the ones who've been talking about this consistent, posting on this on social media. This Suleiman Abaima. Within 16 months of the current NDC government under President John Dramani Mahama, more people have been arrested using these laws than happened under the entire 8 years of the previous MP administration led by President Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo. In other words, you are doing the government is doing too much.
So when Bremer makes that statement is fallacious. You need to understand the level of indiscipline in the exercise of free speech under Nana Akufo-Addo and the level of indiscipline in the exercise of free speech under John Dramani Mahama. That can give you an indication of the level of indiscipline in the two regimes that is bringing about the invocation of the law. It is not the case that all governments, when they are in power, will have to arrest people just for arresting them. That's not the case. There must be a perception of a breach of law, statute, or a regulation that will entitle the criminal investigative authorities to investigate. I, under Nana Akufo-Addo, was arrested for free speech. I was arrested. Maybe I never made it to the headline, but I was arrested.
No, I know about it.
Yes. And that was free speech. I thought that was free speech. I did not promote any hate. I was just expressing an opinion, but I was arrested. I don't think that what I said then can be equated, and I never insulted Nana Akufo-Addo. For all the years Nana Akufo-Addo was in office, I never insulted Nana Akufo-Addo. Neither did I ever insult the vice president or any member of the government of the NPP. But I was arrested. I think that, like I said yesterday, at the Armed Forces, National College of Defense Studies, indiscipline is what is eating up the progress that we have made in this democratic dispensation. The indiscipline is just too much.
The opinion that someone like Oliver Barker-Vormawor has is that ultimately, if you allow the police force to continue to respond to the indiscipline the way they are responding to it, it will affect the way the world sees the world assesses you on the basis of free speech, and also perhaps ultimately the opinion on a free press. That because you have some level of control over the police force, one of the things you should do is, he even says, guidelines on what to arrest for and what not to arrest for, and perhaps also speak to the IGP about sometimes letting some of these things slide. What can be done under this? Do you agree with them that you must be careful how you do it, else to affect the way your government is seen? And if that is the issue, how should it be handled?
Well, I have always respected Oliver Barker-Vormawor as a person, and I really, really respect his opinion on matters of law. I have come to appreciate his deep understanding of the law. But in this case, I beg to disagree with him. A society is founded on the rule of law. The rule of law engenders, or obedience to the rule of law engenders discipline in society, because it promotes certainty and predictability. Now, so if somebody says something in the previous regime and he was arrested for saying those things as a private citizen, exercising his right to freedom of speech, and 10 people say the same thing in another regime, Oliver Vormawor is suggesting that those 10 people should not be arrested because arresting them sends a signal that the president is clamping down on free speech. That is why I don't understand. The fact that one person was arrested in the previous regime for the same offense in similar circumstances does not in any way make it wrong for 10 persons to be arrested in another regime for the same offense. They don't make it wrong. It just means that the prevalence of the offense is on the ascendancy in the new regime. That's how I disagree with it. But I agree that there are certain matters that the government can decide to let go, insofar as they do not compromise discipline and break down order in the polity.
Well, Alhaji, thank you. Thank you very much for speaking to us.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
Well, this is Masola Akpabli who sent this comment a bit earlier on. Says, was that okay? So he's talking about Patricia Piaget. Was she in the country when a Ghanaian who was arrested for just showing a placard which says the UGMC should be operationalized, or she was in Antarctica by then? 50 people were arrested in Rambo style for demonstrating against Galamsey. Was Galamsey not happening then before those protesting got arrested? Or they think they are some kind of special people who should be treated differently in the face of the law? With regards to Chairman Wuntumi's trial, though the judge said if he fails to bring the two witnesses by Thursday, he will go ahead and